Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I can have your attention, please. Thank you again. We appreciate you being here tonight. Round of applause. How was the dinner tonight? I want to tell you how grateful I am that the mayor requested this podium be used tonight with the logo of the city on it. Oftentimes when I'm out in public, I don't share this much, but sometimes when I'm out, people will actually say to me, "Hello, Mayor." And as much as I actually feel the need to correct them, I don't. Because quite frankly, I love hearing that. So whenever they say, "Hello, Mayor," I just say, "Hello, remember me in the fall." Sort of reminds me of the story of Albert Einstein. Yeah, stop me if you've heard this one. Carlos. Albert Einstein was frequently asked to speak at dinners and social events and other gatherings, a practice which, quite frankly, he didn't care much for. One evening, his chauffeur was driving him to another speaking event, and Einstein complained that he was tired of these speaking engagements. His chauffeur happened to look very similar to Einstein and suggested that since he'd heard Einstein make so many of these speeches, that he go in his place and go up and make the speech for Einstein so that Einstein himself could relax. Thinking it was a great idea and eager to see if the chauffeur could actually pull it off, Einstein agreed. And sure enough, they began to exchange clothes, and Einstein put on the chauffeur's hat and jacket, and as they went into the event, into the venue, Einstein took a seat in the back of the room. The chauffeur began shaking hands as though he were Einstein himself, and then was introduced to come up and deliver his speech. At dinner, the chauffeur gave a nearly perfect rendition of the speech while Einstein sat in the back of the room. The chauffeur even managed to answer questions, some of the basic questions that Einstein frequently was asked and was able to answer. Finally, a man in the room was, with an arrogant and belittling manner, asked a question and then began to insert his own opinions and questions so the audience would be impressed with how much the man knew. The chauffeur waited until the pompous man had finished his speech and said, "Sir, the answer to that question is so simple that I will allow my chauffeur, who is sitting in the back of the room, to answer it." And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our mayor, Roland Velasco, for him to come forward and make his speech. And I did want to say, Mayor, I'll be sitting in the back of the room if you need me.
Well, thank you all for being here. You know what? Hang on a second. What a year 2017 has been. In my first full year as mayor, I was confronted with late-night phone calls from residents because their new home in a new development was very close to getting flooded due to winter rains. Gabe and I traveled to Sacramento and met with our legislators to tell them about the condition of their state highway that runs through our town. Gilroy saw the night sky light up because of the Ballybunion fire, in which over 30,000 feet of fire hose was ultimately deployed to encircle the burn area. The City Council heard pro and con arguments over the possibility of Great Wolf Lodge coming to Gilroy. I had the honor of welcoming home to his final resting place an American hero, Frank Massoni, who laid down his life on a tiny island 4,828 miles from the small town of Gilroy that he grew up in. And most recently, we had the passing of Councilmember Paul Klecker. Paul gave us his knowledge, his expertise, and his skills serving the community. Tonight, I'm going to take the opportunity to report on activities at City Hall over the last year and to offer you a preview of the year to come. In addition, I'll also give a brief update on other governmental and community organizations which collectively make up our city partners. First, I want to take a moment to thank the Chamber of Commerce, whether it's networking events, ribbon cuttings, or advocating for businesses at City Council meetings. The Chamber of Commerce stands ready to be the voice of the business community. They work hard to do what no individual or single business can do alone. The State of the City dinner wouldn't be possible without the efforts of Mark Turner and his staff. Thank you. To that end, I also want to thank tonight's sponsors, Heisen Manufacturing, Dan Mitchell, Pinnacle Bank, Kurt Michelson and Harvey Blodgett, Armenta Jensen and Rob Bonetto with RJA. Thank you. And Bill DeRoche of Meineke Car Care Center. It's nice to know that we have local businesses that are willing to step up and get actively involved in our community. Your generous donation for tonight's event hasn't gone unnoticed and is greatly appreciated. Dan, Kurt, Harvey, Rob, and Bill, and Menta, thank you. Of course, I wasn't alone on the dais. I've been blessed to have the support of our city council. A few of them are here tonight. Dion Bracco, Marie Blankley, Deanne Harney is here, and Kat Tucker texted me tonight and she said she got stuck in a work meeting, so she wasn't able to be here. I also want to take a moment to recognize city staff. Gabe Gonzalez, our city administrator, and his executive team. Please stand as I call out your name. Gabe, will you please stand? Shauna Frills, our city clerk. Jimmy Forbes, our finance director. Leanne McPhillips, our human resources director. Maria De Leon, our recreation director. Gruma Wark, our public works director. Christy Abrams, our Community Development Director. Scott Smithy, our Chief of Police, and Alan Anderson, our Fire Chief. Thank you all for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Here at the local level, you know what, let me back up. Let me give a special shout out to and recognize our managers in the various departments. In many cases, our managers are the ones that do the heavy lifting, doing the research, doing the analysis, and then ultimately implementing the council policies and providing the enforcing, if you will, the state requirements. So Gabe, please take back to the managers and indeed all the troops that I certainly appreciate their hard work. Thank you. Here at the local level, our city staff are on the front lines of providing services to our residents. In fact, we see it all around us, from providing emergency alerts, to street repairs, to Zumba classes for seniors, and everything in between. As Councilmember Marie Blankley recently told me, I look around our town and I see buildings, landscaping, and trails to be proud of. While there's more to be done, what's been completed in Gilroy looks great. On the evening of August 5th, 2017, around 9:30 p.m., Lieutenant Schindler of the Department of Fish and Wildlife was on a routine patrol when he heard muffled cries for help. Exiting his vehicle on a remote dirt road off of Highway 101 just south of Highway 25, he started traveling on foot, and the cries became more audible. He could hear a very low, "Help me." During a search of the area, a 64-year-old male was located lying in a creek, paralyzed after a fall. The wildlife officer immediately called for assistance from a 2nd Fish and Wildlife officer, fire, and EMS. Gilroy Fire Engine 47 and Battalion 47 out of the Chestnut Fire Station were dispatched as part of the Auto Aid emergency call-out for South County Fire District. The dispatch report stated Fish and Wildlife had located a male in distress somewhere off of southbound Highway 101 and Sergeant's Crossing. The responding crew that evening consisted of Captain Scott McDonald, fire engineer Michael Perdani, firefighter paramedic William Nguyen, and Division Chief Mary Gutierrez. As the details and exact nature of the call began to unfold, the crew of Engine 47 realized they needed to find the exact location of Fish and Wildlife. Captain McDonald stated there was a high stress factor because of limited communications and the challenge of establishing a rendezvous point for Fish and Wildlife to guide us in. All communications went via cell phone from Engine 47 to Division Chief Gutierrez, who was positioned at Highway 101 at Sergeant's Crossing. When Engine 47 arrived at the established rendezvous point and met the wildlife officer, the officer indicated the patient was still a great distance away. Fire engineer Pardini recognized his fire engine wasn't going to be able to make it on the unpaved dirt road, so the crew of Engine 47 grabbed their medical gear and jumped into the back of the Fish and Wildlife pickup truck. The truck traveled in complete darkness and dense fog until they reached a ravine and could go no further. The first responders exited the vehicle with their gear and completed the journey on foot down a steep embankment that took them down to the Pescadero Creek. There they finally made contact with the injured man lying in the water from the neck down. The patient told fire personnel he had been hiking and came upon the creek. He tried to jump across the creek and hit his head on an overhanging branch. The impact caused him to fall back and hit his head and neck on the rocks in the water, where he lay partially paralyzed. The patient told personnel he had been hiking at around 3:30. The injured man lay in the creek for over 6 hours with serious injuries before he was located. Because of the remoteness and the amount of time the patient had been lying critically injured, a request was made for an air ambulance transport. However, CalStar indicated it was too hazardous to fly because of the dense fog. The crew knew they needed to move swiftly. The man was secured to a wooden backboard to protect his spine from further injury. With the teamwork of all personnel on site, the patient was removed from the water, navigated around dense vegetation, and carried up the embankment. The patient was placed in the back of the Fish and Wildlife pickup truck and medically attended to. The patient was driven the 4 miles back to Highway 101. The patient was transported to a trauma center where he immediately underwent surgery for fractures of several cervical vertebrae. Due to the great care of Engine 47, Fish and Wildlife, and EMS personnel, the patient is able to walk and continues to recover. The collaboration of Gilroy Fire, Fish and Wildlife, and EMS personnel is indicative of the teamwork necessary to successfully carry out a complicated search and rescue event with a positive outcome. Not only is this an example of the kind of professionals we have working in Gilroy, it's an example of the impacts we have on people's lives. Last year, I spoke of Vietnam War hero James Stockdale and the lessons he learned as a prisoner of war. His lessons included 2 parts. We have to be clear and direct about the challenges that confront us, and how, as leaders, we need to be optimistic and honest about how we deal with the circumstances we find ourselves in. Over the last year, I've tried to do just that. We have acknowledged the challenges that our city faces, and we've been honest about our path forward over the next several years. 2017 was really a year of self-assessment as an organization. It was a year that we prepared for our future by making smart and methodical investments so that we can provide services to our residents. Rather than stick our head in the sand or kick the can down the road, the City Council in the current budget cycle established a solid foundation towards building long-term fiscal sustainability for the city by tackling major fiscal and policy items. We've assessed our operational capacity, took a hard look at unfunded liabilities, implemented a 10-year financial forecast model, and long-term sustainable revenue options. Addressing these issues today prepares the city to be proactive by developing policy initiatives to counter the fiscal challenges ahead. As an initial policy, the City Council approved a one-time investment of $6.2 million to modernize city operations and business practices with the integration of technology to improve the delivery of services. Of this $6.2 million, $2 million will be for the purchase and implementation of an enterprise resource planning software program. Simply put, this ERP is a full-service, one-stop software program which will integrate all of the city's business applications into one system. Another $1 million is earmarked for the Community Development Department to automate the planning and building functions with the implementation of a land management system. Our current system is difficult to use, not intuitive, and does not include any public interface. The land management system, like the ERP, is also a full-service software application which will streamline the manner in which plans are submitted and processed, thus reducing processing time. It will also automate the building permit process. An additional $1 million was appropriated towards updating the city's IT infrastructure as the cornerstone of city's efforts to improve technology resources available to the city. This will allow the implementation technology upgrades and improve business processes that will significantly improve organizational performance. Last year, the council initiated a traffic calming policy as a result of neighborhood concerns about Upper Welborn speeding and traffic, along with other areas of town. These policies establish a fair and uniform process, allow for community outreach, assessment of potential impacts, and mitigating measures. This is coming back to the council for adoption. The City Council updated the current economic incentive policy to include a payment plan option for impact fees. If a new commercial and/or industrial project can demonstrate that it substantially improves the local economy, then it would be allowed to make its impact fees in 3 annual installments. This takes a heavy burden off new businesses. Great Wolf Lodge, which is North America's largest family of indoor water park resorts, announced it was interested in locating in Gilroy. The proposed resort would have been located off Highway 152 on a parcel of land adjacent to Gilroy Gardens, which is currently used primarily for storage and parking. Unfortunately, Great Wolf Lodge decided to locate to another city that they had a previous relationship with and where the environmental work had already been completed. I'll talk more about this in a little bit. Another major event in 2017 was the Valley Fire that started in the evening of September 3rd. Upon arrival, the fire department initially estimated the fire size at about 5 acres with the potential of structures being threatened. Due to the steep terrain, attempting to navigate through the thick overgrown brush and the loss of sunlight as the day turned into night, the firefighters were unable to outflank the fire. Fire departments from as far south as Santa Barbara County and as far north as Yolo County provided assistance. Over the next several days, the fire continued its forward progress, burning up and over the ridge. It was finally contained at 100 acres. There were no serious injuries to personnel, no damaged or lost structures, and only 6 minor injuries. Let me talk briefly about trees. Trees, trees, trees. Nothing will get Gilroy sued faster than cutting down trees. Tree maintenance and removal have always been important to our community and at times controversial. We know the benefits of trees and the positive role they play in our overall health. Trees reduce pollution, they provide UV protection, and lower temperatures by providing shade. They could also potentially increase the value of your property. Our goal is to plant over 500 trees over 5 years. I'm proud to say that at the end of this year, or last year, we have planted a total of 106 trees in the streets right-of-ways as well as park sites. Let me put it another way. We have completed over 20% of our 5-year plan. Here's another investment we've made. The city of Gilroy has 26.7 million square feet of streets to maintain and manage. So we have invested $2.5 million to protect our streets through the Capital Pavement Maintenance Project. This program is designed to do major rehabilitation work and to minimize future maintenance costs on our streets. The asphalt overlay that was done on Miller Avenue is an example of this type of work. The local street repair program at approximately $100,000 is intended to supplement the capital pavement maintenance program projects. This program is designed to include crack sealing to keep water from seeping down into the cracks in the streets, repairing failed pavement areas, and filling in low pavement areas to improve ride quality. Here's the reality, though. There are challenges facing our city, and City Hall alone cannot take them on by ourselves. So we need to have community partners to support the business community, welcome visitors, promote the downtown, and educate our city, our children. Let me introduce Gilroy's community partners. The Chamber of Commerce, according to Mark Turner, began a number of programs and initiatives to help the local economy and the community. They began a Shop Local, Work Local, Play Local campaign, which is beginning to gain traction. They launched the Latino Business Alliance, sponsored by the Gilroy Working Scholars Program, completed their 4th annual Rock the Mock event, helping high school students understand how to do job interviews, convened the region's 8 elected officials for a legislative summit to discuss issues affecting South County, and held a very successful community meeting regarding Alexander Station. The Chamber of Commerce is focused on convening community leaders to address issues facing Gilroy, such as homelessness, crime, transportation, roads, housing, workforce development, and more. You've been busy, Mark. So I asked Mark, how many people work for you at the Chamber? And without missing a beat, he says, work for me? I have 3. 4 if you want to count Eric. It's not right. Tammy Brownlow, the executive director of the Gilroy Economic Development Corporation, states that companies continue to invest in Gilroy due to our great location and access to transportation corridors. Performance Food Group recently broke ground on a new 190,000 square foot distribution center that will employ approximately 190 people. Retail sales and store openings are another indication of our strong local economy. Big 5 Sporting Goods and dd's will be opening soon. Here's some good news. Our retail centers have very little vacancy available, and our industrial vacancy rate is 1.5%, with nearly every available property occupied. The bad news is we have very little retail and industrial vacancy available. So that's a knife that cuts both ways, and it makes it difficult to highlight properties to interested businesses. Our downtown is attracting new businesses and eateries. Golden State Brewery and Grill recently opened, and there are 2 more microbreweries being proposed in downtown: the Promised Land Brewery and Lone Oak Brew and Pub and Pizzeria. The EDC is beginning to work on a strategic plan that will include analysis of key opportunity sites in the city, incentive zones, and target industries. This work and resulting actions will be conducted in close partnership with the city and other partner organizations. Tammy, will you please stand up and introduce yourself? This is Tammy Brownlow. The Gilroy Welcome Center was selected as a host destination for the Visit California Superfam for the first time in 7 years. This means that selected agents and tour operators were here from the UK to tour the area for potential tourist activities, venues, and restaurants. On the domestic front, the Gilroy Welcome Center participated with 9 other partners from the Central Coast Tourism Council in a Coastal California to Yosemite road trip co-op contest in 2017. They are once again participating in this campaign for 2018. Jane Howard, the executive director of the Welcome Center, realizes that more than 70% of their website traffic arrives from mobile sources such as cell phones and tablets. In order to create a positive user experience, they will be redesigning their website to create a mobile-first version. In addition, this summer, the Welcome Center is planning to launch a Garlic Trail campaign. The plan calls for creating walking and driving maps for visitors to experience garlic during their various stops on the trail. Capitalizing on the world-renowned Gilroy Garlic Festival brand, she believes this new offering will provide the garlic experience year-round for visitors, both domestically and internationally. Jane, where's Jane at? Jane, please stand up. Speaking of garlic, this summer the Gilroy Garlic Festival is celebrating 40 years of fun, family, and fabulous food. More than 4,000 local volunteers make this world-renowned event possible every year, helping the Garlic Festival raise over $11.5 million for our community since 1979. Brian Bowe, the executive director of the festival, tells me he is appreciative of the support of our local community, businesses, civic organizations, and the partnership with the city of Gilroy. Is Brian here tonight? Nope, haven't seen him. According to Barb Granter, the executive director at Gilroy Gardens, the board commissioned and completed a master plan for the property last year. Phase 1 opens in May with the expansion of Water Oasis, which is doubling in size, and they are creating a walking trail around the lake predominantly for nighttime use as the Gardens at Night events expand. This year, the board commissioned a study on recreational use and public access to the hillside, hiking, biking, and camping. Gilroy Gardens continues to attract over 400,000 people each year, offers over 400 jobs to our youth and young adults, and reinvested $4 million into the property in capital improvement and deferred maintenance for 2018. Their 5-year goal includes increasing nighttime attendance to 100,000 for a total yearly attendance of 500,000 people and corresponding jobs for youth to 500. While specific numbers on attendance, revenue, and capital investment continue to point to the health of the organization and its longevity, this success means the Gardens can focus on longer-term goals that support the cities and partner organizations like the Welcome Center, EDC, and Chamber in tourism growth. Barb also wanted me to mention that the Gardens is opening a week earlier this year, which puts the Gilroy Appreciation Day on Saturday, March 17th. Yes, that's St. Patrick's Day. Traditionally, this day brings in between 6,000 and 9,000 Gilroyans to the park. Barb is here. There she is. Barb, please stand up. According to Melanie Corona, the executive director of the Gilroy Downtown Business Association, she is particularly proud of a new fundraising program that was conceived of and implemented in 2017. In addition, her board of directors is thrilled at the way the annual Gilroy Holiday Parade continues to be received by the community. The 2018, listen to this, folks. The 2017 event was the largest to date. Most participants, most vendors, most sponsors, and most attendees. Isn't that great? Melanie also received the most complaints about Mark Turner's Christmas jokes, but we try not to highlight that. Jane Howard put Eric and I up to call her and complain. They have set a goal for fundraising through sponsorships and have exceeded that amount already. GBA is also bringing the inaugural South County Health Fair to downtown Gilroy on April 28th. They anticipate having at least 100 vendors, service participants, offering health, wellness options to our community members and attendees. Melanie's board has also set a goal to implement a membership program for downtown business owners, offering continuing education, social media marketing, and other areas of support. I also like this goal. The board will begin a recognition program for people and organizations that work hard to make our downtown community a great place to visit, do business, and live. Don't forget to mark your calendars for the Gilroy Art and Wine Stroll and Poppy Jasper International Film Festival on Saturday, April 7th. There are so many good things happening at our, I'm sorry, Melanie, please stand up. There are so many good things happening at our district schools. The district has purchased new math and English language arts materials for all grade levels. The materials come with a wealth of resources, many of which can be accessed at home or at school, and the teachers have been trained to use these materials. Some major facility projects have recently been completed and are underway, including a new parking lot at Gilroy High School, solar projects at Gilroy High School and Christopher High School, a new 2-story, 20-room math wing at Gilroy High School. In the next few years, South Valley and Brownell Middle Schools will be renovating portions to be rebuilt. Their goal is to increase the level of achievements for all students throughout the district with a focus on closing the achievement gap. Gavilan College is the single largest higher education provider for Gilroy students. Their students can complete their lower division requirements with options in 23 associate degrees for transfer, as well as UC transfer agreements and numerous career education programs. Over the past year, they have added programs in HVAC, drone technology, hospitality management, welding, and pharmacy technology, joining their other outstanding programs in nursing, aviation maintenance technology, cosmetology, child development, business, and digital media and computer sciences. Gavilan has something for everyone. The college is also joining the City of Gilroy as a partner in environmental sustainability. Solar panels have been installed over the 2 largest parking lots on the Gilroy campus, and charging stations for electric vehicles are on the way. And like the City of Gilroy, Gavilan will be partnering with the Lime Bicycle Sharing Program. Lastly, Gavilan College is getting ready to celebrate their centennial in 2019 and invites every member of the community to join the celebration, because every member of this community has been touched in some way by Gavilan College. These organizations promote themselves and our city. They showcase a positive image of Gilroy and the way it is viewed by others outside the city. They provide our city with advocacy, expertise, knowledge, and warmth. By doing so, they have an intrinsic value that is hard to define, but easy to recognize. We need to continue a cooperative relationship with our community partners as we move into 2018. Let me pause right here real quick, and I was neglectful. There is one other individual I would like to recognize, and that is Supervisor Mike Wasserman. Take a sip, Mike, if you need to. Supervisor Mike Wasserman, District 1. Thank you, Mike, for being here. What can we expect for 2018? Let me start with economic development. The Great Wolf Lodge debate illustrated the complexity of landing a company in Gilroy when companies have choices about where to go and what kind of incentives, if any, cities can offer. Add to the mix the burdensome California Environmental Quality Act CEQA process and the low threshold for establishing a fair argument for environmental reviews, and you have a recipe for delays, uncertainties, and rising costs to a development project. Great Wolf Lodge reinforced that economic development must be a long-term strategy. As I've said before, it's not a light switch that can be flipped on and off. The immediate benefits of a sound policy may not be recognized in the short term. So any policy has to be ongoing, consistent, and constantly reevaluated for relevance. If a project is approved today, it could be years before we see the benefit to the city. So why is economic development so important to our city? Even prior to me becoming mayor, you've heard me say that housing, more than any other land use, costs the city money. The property taxes generated by housing doesn't pay for all the services that residents demand. So let me illustrate an example for you. If you have a house in Gilroy that has an assessed value of $700,000, then you would write a check to Santa Clara County for your property taxes. The total property tax rate in Gilroy is 1.2686%. That's the 1% Prop 13 limit plus voter-approved bond debt. That's the various other bonds that have been passed by the voters, the school bonds or the water district bonds. But let's keep this math simple. Let's use 1% of the $700,000. That would be $7,000. But not all of that $7,000 comes to the city of Gilroy. If this dollar here represents the 1% that you sent to the county, according to the Controller Treasurer Department at the county, the city of Gilroy would receive 9.7% of this dollar. Less than this time. You send in this, the city of Gilroy gets less than this. Approximately $679 for the services that residents rightfully demand. Everything from police and fire protection to clean parks, recreation activities, streets, sidewalks, trees, and everything in between. That's why economic development is so important to our city. To that end, the council has refocused our efforts on 4 main points: evaluating economic zones, assessing available land inventory, streamlining our policies and procedures, and a renewed commitment to downtown revitalization. These policy discussions will include incentive programs to attract businesses that enhance and further the city's desire to be a destination point. The best and highest use of city-owned land, potential revenue sharing which produce a high yield of return on investment, and land available for economic development throughout the city. As we move forward, we have to include our residents, businesses, and external partners in the conversation to ensure support and positive outcomes. The Finance Department is in the process of currently conducting a comprehensive review of purchasing policies and procedures. As part of that evaluation, the city is reviewing the local preference purchasing program. In its current state, local businesses receive a preference if their bid for supplies and materials is within 3% of the lowest bid. The review will include an analysis of best practices and provide council with recommendations to consider in achieving the goals set forth for a local purchasing program. Crime is another issue that we'll be talking about in 2018. We have seen the impacts of state propositions on crime, specifically AB 109, Propositions 47 and 57. Since 2011, beginning with AB 109, it shifted the responsibility of dealing with low-level criminals from the state to the counties. Then Proposition 47 came along and reduced the classification of most non-serious, non-violent property and drug crimes from a felony to a misdemeanor. Most recently, Proposition 57 increased parole chances for felons convicted of nonviolent crimes. These laws have wreaked havoc on cities throughout the state, and Gilroy is no different. Individuals that should be locked up are instead given a citation and asked to appear in court. Others who are in prison are eligible for an early release because offenses under state law, such as rape of an unconscious person, trafficking a child for sex, assaulting a police officer, and other similar crimes are not classified as violent felonies. In talking about these laws that are handcuffing our police and impacting the quality of life for Gilroy residents, I've had the pleasure of meeting two women, Cheryl Parks and Maria Sandoval. They care deeply about our community and have decided to help support the passage of a new initiative called the Reducing Crime and Keeping California Safe Act. They started gathering signatures last weekend to put this important initiative on the November ballot. Cheryl Parks and Maria Sandoval, please stand and be recognized. Thank you for what you're doing here in Gilroy. Mark Turner has also said he plans on taking this initiative to his chamber coalition for support, and the City Council last Monday night has also approved endorsing this important initiative. I'm optimistic that when voters learn about this initiative, they will pass it in November and fix some of the things wrong under current law. A tax measure will also be discussed by the council. Among the various options the council will consider is a quarter-cent sales tax that would be dedicated solely for public safety. Here's why. Pre-recession 2008, we had 50 personnel in the fire department, and they had 3,400 calls for service. In 2017, we have 40 personnel who responded to 5,400 calls for service. Put another way, call volume has increased by approximately 63%, while total personnel decreased by 20% during this time frame. On the police side, calls for service have increased, and while we have added some new police officers, we are still down officers from the level of service needed. In other words, we can't provide the services to the community that our residents demand and that are called out for in our police staffing report. Basically, our ability to provide service, our ability to respond to resident calls remain at pre-recession levels, while the city's population has grown from approximately 48,000 people to 56,000 people over the last 10 years. Gilroy is not alone on addressing the homeless topic. There are no best practices to address this chronic issue as cities across the state and nation are dealing with it. I'm receiving calls and emails from residents and businesses about the impacts they are experiencing. Mark Turner recently said, "While compassion needs to be applied to the homeless individuals, we cannot fail to provide compassion for the merchants and business owners of Gilroy who have to deal with the problems and challenges brought on by those in the homeless population." At last year's event, I wondered if the Armory was acting as a magnet to attract homeless from other jurisdictions. I was criticized by some for that comment. Since that time, I believe I have been proven correct. Here's one example that has taken place that illustrates how the Armory is resulting in Gilroy's growing homeless population. A male transient was arrested for drunken public in front of Safeway. He told officers he went to the Sunnyvale Armory, but he was denied entry for an unknown reason. He was then given a taxi ride to Gilroy to seek the shelter and services here. He was later cited and released when sober. Gee, I wonder why he was denied entry. Gilroy is about 3% of the county population, but according to a county report, we have about 10% of the homeless population. When a homeless person arrives in Gilroy, they become our responsibility. And we are not equipped to deal with the multitude of issues that a homeless population have. We know we can't arrest our way out of this issue, so social services has to be an important part of any approach to address homelessness. But despite the best efforts of the county to provide services, there are those who, for whatever reason, don't want to receive services or are not ready to receive them. It's those individuals that are causing problems for our residents and businesses alike. In the short term, the city has authorized the implementation of an enforcement plan to address quality of life issues in the city. In addition, the police chief is working with county behavioral health to further acquire any needed services. In the long term, we will have to address this problem through a regional approach with Morgan Hill and possibly the county. However, the solution can't be, let's send them to the Gilroy Armory. Now, as mayor, I could assist those in need of city services. I could help promote Gilroy as a place to live, work, and play. I could lead the council on issues that may divide us. I can do a million things right, but if freaking First Street doesn't get fixed, then I'm gonna hear about it. I got something for you. So let me provide a quick update on where we stand. As you probably know, due to the advocacy efforts of the city, we managed to obtain $14 million from the California Transportation Commission to repave California State Highway 152 through Gilroy, our First Street. Now, I can't stress enough how significant that is. Remember, the community was always told that repaving was going to happen. In fact, Caltrans never even had it forecasted. We managed to secure $14 million and got $1 million of emergency work done. Today, Caltrans is starting a project development, including design and environmental work. However, before we could begin construction, we must get started on our water and sewer line project on First Street. We are waiting on Caltrans to issue our encroachment permit, and we expect that permit any day now. In the meantime, we are finalizing the bid documents in preparation for advertisement and construction to begin this summer. And oh, by the way, I've already contacted Caltrans and I've spoke with representatives there. And I've asked that any staging to include street equipment, pipes, asphalt, and any other necessary supplies get staged at 191st Street. The owner of the building likes to park his crappy car in front of his office door. So, Al Pinheiro, here's a little background. When I was thinking about running for mayor, I went to Al Pinheiro and I asked, what do you think? I wasn't asking him for money. I wasn't asking him for his endorsement. I wasn't asking him for any blood or anything like that. I just, what do you think? And he tells me, oh, yeah, go ahead, do it. You already go to the meetings. It's just a couple of hours extra. This is why staging's taking place. I don't know what kind of Portuguese math you got going on over there, but a couple of hours extra, I mean. My dwindling vacation hours and my dog would disagree with your couple of hours assessment. And my wife, too. Lastly, let me address downtown. We have seen success including Bartenders Union, Golden State Brewery, and the upcoming Gilroy Bar and Grill owned by Dan Nelson and Pete Smith. And both of them are here tonight somewhere. There we go, back over there. Dan tells me they hope to open by the end of the year. We have made progress with downtown, and with this success come some opportunities that the council should consider. Soon I'll bring forward a proposal to consider modifying or lifting the commercial restrictions on the first floor of downtown. We need a debate as to whether it's still needed. I also recognize we won't be able to build a parking garage, so we need to maximize our available parking to support downtown's current and future businesses. So I'm going to propose to the council that we push for the second paseo between 4th and 5th Street, connecting Monterey to the city lot behind the bookstore. Fortune favors the bold. Let's take action. I recently heard a story about Albert Einstein. He was once traveling from Princeton on a train when the conductor came down the aisle, punching the tickets of every passenger. When he came to Einstein, Einstein reached into his vest pocket. He couldn't find his ticket, so he reached into his trouser pockets. It wasn't there. He looked in his briefcase, but he couldn't find it. Then he looked in the seat beside him. He still couldn't find it. The conductor said, "Dr. Einstein, I know who you are. We all know who you are. I'm sure you bought a ticket. Don't worry about it." Einstein nodded. The conductor continued down the aisle punching tickets. As he was ready to move to the next car, he turned around and he saw the great physicist down on his hands and knees, looking under his seat for his ticket. The conductor now rushes back to him and said, Dr. Einstein, don't worry. I know who you are. No problem. You don't need a ticket. I'm sure you bought one." Einstein looked at him and said, "Young man, I too know who I am. What I don't know is where I'm going." Ladies and gentlemen, unlike Einstein, we know where we're going. We've adopted a proactive budget that has laid a solid foundation for our city over the next few years. You have a new mayor and a new city administrator that are willing to challenge the status quo. Plus, I've got a council that works together and are supportive of my efforts. Let's be true to ourselves and choose our own path forward. Let's not be afraid of making mistakes or trying and failing. Let's pursue our vision, whether it's a vibrant downtown or safe and healthy neighborhoods. Let's act decisively. I know we can succeed with help from our external partners, Gabe and city staff, and the support of our residents. Together, we will rise to the challenges that face us and sometimes plague us. Together, we can be successful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here this evening, and may God bless the city of Gilroy.